I was going to ask you how you balance these two things, because I know realtors work a lot and you seem like you have your plate quite full.
You're listening to Building Dallas by Arrington Roofing.
I'm definitely focused on the chamber. I mean, let's be honest, I could make more money doing the other things. And I've struggled with that part because I would love to make more money at some point in my life. However, that is not for me as fulfilling as building community.
From sunrise commutes to stormy nights, from tough builds to big ideas, we're shaping the future of North Texas, one story at a time. Welcome to Building Dallas.
Hello, welcome to Building Dallas. I'll be your host today, Reese Arrington. Today we have a really special guest. She's a dynamic leader in the Dallas business community with a passion for service, strategy, and civic impact. Her work focuses on empowering local businesses and creating inclusive opportunities for growth across North Texas. With a background that bridges both public service and community engagement, off the clock, she's driven by faith, family, and a mission to build better communities from the inside out. Please welcome Kiyundra Jones.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm great. That's a
Good.
Wonderful intro.
Well, you deserve it.
Well,
You deserve
that
it.
doesn't even sound like me, but thank you.
You have an incredible history in this position as president of the Chamber of Commerce in Oak Cliff. You've been doing this for 10 years, 11 years?
So as the president, 11 years. I've been with the organization for 18.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's impressive. So you mentioned you'd have an IOM. Can you describe what exactly that is?
Yes. So it's just education for chamber and association leaders. It's a 4-year program. It's put on by the U.S. Chambers of Commerce. And what it is, we got to go to Villanova University for 4 years and learn how to do this work.
Wow.
So,
Okay. And so for people that don't know, I did my own research and I'm part of the chamber. And the chamber is run by the public. It's a public organization. It has nothing to do with the actual city government.
Right.
But what is the goal of the chamber? Specifically, what's your goal with the chamber as the president?
I love that question. So every chamber is very different. We all, even though we are kind of under this Chamber of Commerce umbrella, there is no mother Chamber of Commerce. We don't report up to this entity. And I think that a lot of times people believe that. So we don't report to the city of Dallas or any of that. Our goal is to promote economic development within a certain area or demographic. In our case, it's a region, which is Oak Cliff. There are different organizations that serve like different demographics. Sometimes there's the ethnic chambers or those kinds of things. But I am responsible for a body of land or a region, which is Oak Cliff. Okay.
And Oak Cliff is massive. I mean, people don't understand that Oak Cliff is what, a third of Dallas?
Yeah, it is huge. And, you know, Reese, over time, what I have learned not to do is define Oak Cliff because it could become an argument,
okay.
You know?
Okay.
So you've got some historians that say Oak Cliff is this, you know, and sometimes they base that on what Oak Cliff was as a city. Because Oak Cliff, of course, used to be a city that was annexed into the city of Dallas. And then you've got some community folks that say the boundaries are different places. And so what I tend to say is if you call it Oak Cliff, so do I.
Okay.
We just provide service for the southern sector of Dallas County.
Which seems like that's more or less agreeable on how much of Dallas is Oak Cliff.
Yes.
Yeah. All the way down to 20, you know, all the way to Loop 12, all the way to 45.
Yeah.
That's been my, you know, understanding of Oak Cliff, which is a really large part of Dallas.
It is. And what's so amazing about it is people don't realize it goes as far south. Like our District 3 council member, Zarin Gracie, he actually covers some parts of Grand Prairie.
Wow.
That's how far. Yeah.
So people from Grand Prairie are claiming to be Oak Cliffites?
In some cases. And so I just don't touch it, you know?
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Well, so in your tenure as the president of the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce, you've done a lot of different programs. And just to list the ones that I've heard of, you have Oak Cliff Works, Taste of Oak Cliff, Black Men Matter, Oak Cliff Thrives, the Business University, Leadership Oak Cliff, and the Strictly Business Unscripted, which I came on last year, which is a lot of fun. So one that stood out to me was the business university.
Mhm.
It seems like that's gained a lot of attention. You were praised for that last year by the Oak Cliff Advocate, which is really awesome. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that
Thank
for
you.
your decade of service.
Thank you.
So how I understand that is that you're training new businesses, new CEOs, and then you have a mentorship program.
That's right.
Can you talk about that? It sounds really cool.
Yes, so that is a program we're extremely proud of. Again, it's called the Business University, and what we do is on a cohort by cohort basis, we adopt entrepreneurs. And so we only take about 5 entrepreneurs at a time, and the reason why is we want to spend a lot of time mentoring those entrepreneurs. And so we partner usually with Hush Blackwell, which is a legal firm, and a banking institution. And so it varies just depending on the banking institution that wants to take on that particular cohort. And so our entrepreneurs, it's a multi-week educational experience, and they're getting assigned to a representative with the bank that helps them get access to capital and other financial resources that are needed, as well as legal resources through Hush Blackwell. So it's a wonderful program. We've graduated multiple cohorts, and we're continuing to do so just to strengthen this community that we love from an economic development standpoint.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. I mean, being able to bring in people who have this dream of being an entrepreneur and then giving them the pathway to achieve that goal. So for someone who is thinking about starting a business, how would they apply for this program?
Yeah, so all things, they can go to oakcliffchamber.org and click on Business University and click on applications. They can submit their applications there.
Wow, that's so cool.
So
cool.
easy.
Yeah. So we know that communities grow from the inside out, and there's the public that can either kill or help a deal succeed. So in development in any business, what's the value of a business owner having a temperature on the public and not ignoring their community and being a part of their community?
Oh, goodness. From a development standpoint, we want to make sure that we have smart development, especially in Oak Cliff, since after all, that's where the green space is in the southern sector of Dallas County. We want to make sure that our developers or anyone that comes into our community, they're bringing things into our community that we want. And how else will they know what the community wants other than to have that relationship? So it is just a vital part of the process to have a rapport with the community.
Yeah, relationships are huge. And so you did real estate before you became the chamber president. Are you still doing real estate now?
I am still a licensed realtor,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
But my focus is the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce and its nonprofit. So.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how you balance these two things, because I know realtors work a lot, and you seem like you have your plate quite full. So so you're full, dived into your role at the chamber.
Yeah, I'm definitely focused on the chamber. I mean, let's be honest, I could make more money doing the other things. And I've struggled with that part because I would love to make more money at some point in my life. However, that is not for me as fulfilling as building community.
Absolutely.
And so my focus is and has been the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce and its nonprofit. A lot of these programs that you've mentioned, they run under the nonprofit arm of the Oak Cliff Chamber, which is called Oak Cliff Empowered. And if it's okay, can I mention a new program that's coming?
I would love for you to mention the new program, please. Please.
So we've got something that's called a mobile business incubator program that we're launching within the next few weeks. A mobile business incubator.
All right.
And so what that is essentially is a food truck. Because what we have done in the past is I don't think we've done a really good job of providing a service for our restaurant community or food truck entrepreneurs. And so what we've done as an organization is we've purchased one, and we want to help eatery concepts. We want to help them stair-step their way into either being a restaurant owner, manager, or food truck owner, because we just want to provide them with the tools. So essentially with this mobile incubator program, we will give them the tools that's needed to do those things before they invest in the brick and mortar. because a lot of times there's an overinvestment in a thing that may not work.
Right.
And so we want to equip that community of potential entrepreneurs with education, resources, and then help them. We want to hold their hands throughout the process.
Wow.
So that'll be called the Taste of Oak Cliff Mobile Business Incubator Program.
Okay. So you're going back to one of your to your roots, because in 2019 you did Taste of Oak Cliff.
Yes.
And so this is kind of a continuation of that program?
Yes. So there are essentially 3 different entities. Is it okay for me to talk about those?
Let's
Okay.
go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bring it in.
So we've got the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce, and of course, that is the 501c6. And so that is community building. It's a member-to-member kind of situation where we're doing networking events and educational experiences and all of those things. Separately, we've got the nonprofit, which is called Oak Cliff Empowered, which are some of the programs that you've mentioned. They're running under that 501c3, which allows foundations and supporters to be able to support our community by giving donations and those kinds of things. And so this food truck will essentially run under that program. But we have another program, another up and coming entity, which will be called Taste of Oak Cliff. So there are, I don't want to be confusing, but we will have a Taste of Oak Cliff speakeasy, networking speakeasy. Where we'll have different bartenders and such that will come in and give us samplings of what they have to offer in a private environment so people can come and network. We'll also continue to have the festival, which you've named, the Taste of Oak Cliff Festival, where we've got over 100 vendors that come and they give a sample of the things that they do. This is not just from an eatery standpoint. So we've got 3 different organizations working simultaneously. Wow. So
so that's a lot to juggle there. A lot to keep track of. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So the Taste of Oak Cliff, when is the event going to come? And is that open to the public?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Taste of Oak Cliff Festival will be happening again August 2026. Okay. And so it will be here when the World Cup will be here.
Oh, wow.
So we want to make sure we take full advantage of that. We want to expose those folks to our Oak Cliff.
Man, that's going to be pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a soccer fan or football? What do you say?
I understand nothing.
You know the offsides rule, though, right?
I have no
Everybody
idea.
Understands the offsides rule.
Except me.
Except everyone who watches the sport. No, I don't think anyone understands the offsides rule.
What is that?
It's whenever they kick the ball and if your attackers pass a certain line before the ball crosses the same line, then it's offsides. Oh. It's silly. I'm being silly, but it's one of those things where no one can really understand it. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Ted Lasso, but he makes a lot of jokes about offsides. Yeah. Anyway, back on track here.
I am not an athlete. I cheer when everyone else cheers.
You were a cheerleader at the Halloween party, weren't you?
Because I cheer I cheer everyone
you
on.
You are a cheerleader.
That's what I do. That's my job, is to cheer people on.
Yeah, that's great. So people that come be a part of the chamber, they can expect Kiyundra to be their personal cheerleader.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe everybody, if you believe you can do a thing, I believe you can do it. So that's all I have to do is give you the resources that you can do it. Yeah. That's most of the struggle right there, is belief in self. And so if you believe that you can be an entrepreneur, well, you can.
Yeah. And you have a place where people can go and learn from other business owners and take classes and get up to speed and really thrive.
Yeah.
I've been to some of your events and they're so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're so much fun, and I can tell how much you put into it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is there anything coming up here soon just for the chamber that you're excited about?
I'm excited about most things. You know, I didn't sleep last night very well because I was thinking about being here and I was super excited. And so I get excited still after almost 2 decades about the work that we're doing and things like this. So when you say excitement, you know, that's hard for me. I'm just an excited person, but let's see. So first of all, let me go back and talk about the fun of our events. One of the things that I like to do with our events is I want to make sure that people remember the experience. And so every day is a holiday. And so what we try to do with our events is we make sure that we celebrate whatever that holiday is for our networking events.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's how we determine the theme, whatever the holiday is for that event or for that day. And so we've got networking events that are coming up with some cool holidays. My favorite holiday, of course, is Halloween.
Okay. All right.
Because I like to dress up.
You remember what I was at the Halloween party?
Were you Batman?
I was Batman.
You were Batman. I don't think I knew who you were at first.
Because I had the mask over with the cape, and I was changing my voice like this. Yeah.
You were great. I love that.
I still have like the ring I won for, what was it? Did I win best costume or something?
I
Even
think
though it was
so.
just a Batman mask, but no, I had a lot of fun.
Well, it's because you were in full character. That's what it was. That matters.
That's very true. Yeah. I have a degree in acting, so whenever I have the opportunity to go all out, I'll do it.
I learned that. Well, you guys need to partner with us on the Halloween event again.
Oh, we'd love to. You guys should come here.
I would love that. Yeah. Back in the day, I used to go all out for Halloween. I'd like call Golden Gate Funeral Home and get like a casket, and I would get, and
those are expensive.
They would donate it.
Oh, really?
They would, they would bring it
cool.
all the things, and so we would make like different sections. Like Bob Stimson is my predecessor, so he would always loan me a building that we could have like some ridiculous event in. So I would love to partner on that.
We could do Halloween. I mean, we have a warehouse. It's kind of spooky,
I love that.
Put up some black tarps and everything.
Yeah.
Make some hallways, do a little haunted house or something,
I would love that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone would have to sign like a liability waiver.
So if you want to come to some cool parties,
the
Chamber of Commerce and Arrington Roofing will help you have a great time.
That's right.
Yeah. So, in terms of developments, Oak Cliff, I mean, wow, like it's just been blowing up. It seems like it's, from when I was a kid, it's changed drastically.
Right.
And I just, I didn't know you've been behind the scenes on some of this changes for over a decade now, and been with the Chamber for 17 years in total. And so what's your take on how the community has changed and what's contributed to that change? And how do you feel about some of the new developments in Oak Cliff?
So I am from a small town in East Texas, and it's Jacksonville, Texas. And I moved from Jacksonville, Texas to Jacksonville, Florida to Dallas, Texas. Okay. So when I got here almost 20 years ago, and I drove through, well, let me back up. When I got here, one of the very first things that I was told was, do not go to Oak Cliff. You will die. Do not go to Oak Cliff. And I think we've all heard that, right? Like Oak Cliff it's awful. It's horrible. It's all the things. And so for me, I was drawn to Oak Cliff because I'm a rebel,
Gotcha.
And so I remember what Bishop Arts was like at the time, and some of the other key areas, Redbird, and, I think they were calling it Blackbird at the time, Blackbird Mall, and some of those things, even the Dallas Zoo area, some of those things. And especially Redbird, Shops at Redbird, I think that's what it's called now. That place was like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And so how did I feel about it at the time was, these people are lying. There's nothing going on here, that would warrant me being fearful for my life. And in fact, I lived in Oak Cliff and then moved probably a couple years that I was here to North Dallas. And that's where my car got broken into. It was in North Dallas. Yeah. And then I moved back to Oak Cliff, and I've never had a problem. Yeah. But how I feel about the development in Oak Cliff is that it's needed. We need development.
Yep.
Where else can development go in this city other than South? And so our previous mayor, Mayor Rawlings, when he had the Growth South initiative, and he was encouraging developers to bring their development south, I thought it was the most amazing plan ever. And so we are seeing the fruits of some of his efforts now, spotlighting the southern sector and getting developers to come. So I love it. I love what's happening. We need more of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And there's, with any development, there's certain collateral effects. I don't want to
Yeah.
say damage, but collateral effects,
Sure.
you know, and you have the local community who is maybe displaced a little bit by those effects. You know, new developments have to happen. Otherwise, everything's just going to be old.
Sure.
Right. We can't just
Sure.
have everything be old. We're not Europe. We didn't build things
Right.
like with stones and that are going to last for forever.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of developers in Oak Cliff that want to fix up these historic properties.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, you know, some of these houses, some of these older homes are going to have to make, you know, go away to make room for new development.
Right.
So, you know, what do you say to homeowners and people in that camp that are disappointed with the changing of the landscape?
You know, it's a delicate matter.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. It's very, very delicate, and I think that you approach it that way. If and it happens all the time when we're needing to comfort someone that ultimately will be displaced.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just how you have to
Yeah.
approach it. You know, development. I go back to my previous statement.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to happen in this area.
Right.
I mean, our tax base needs to grow. It just has to happen. And so I think that as much as possible, we be mindful of how it impacts those homeowners, et cetera. But in some cases, it's just unavoidable.
Right. And there's an ethical way to do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there is something to be said about holding those developers accountable for, hey, how are we going to go about this? Right. And I think, you know, Oak Cliff is very tight knit. And so if a developer comes in and does something maybe a little bit, you know, below board, you're going to get found out.
Absolutely.
And Oak Cliff will rally.
Yes.
And you'll be exposed.
Yes.
So I think it is important that we have an ethical approach to any type of redevelopment of an area.
I agree.
And the gentrification that might come with that.
I agree.
But I agree. Yeah, definitely a sensitive topic. So I know there's a really cool project happening just down the street from us, the Halperin Park.
Yes.
The southern, used to be called the Southern Gateway Park by the zoo.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this development and how is it going to impact the businesses in the area?
Well, I am super duper supportive of this development. I'm proud of it. In fact, it is one of the many reasons that I chose to purchase my home where I did
Mm-hmm.
because of the development. So what I can tell you is it's been a long time coming. You know, this is an asset that Oak Cliff needs. If we even look at the example of like Clyde Warren Park and how it impacted downtown Dallas
yeah.
and how property values skyrocketed in and around Clyde Warren Park, well, this is going to do that on steroids.
Right.
And so we need that. Now, from a homeowner standpoint, my taxes are crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I believe that.
My taxes are cuckoo.
Yeah.
But it's a needed development. Again, it's a needed development, and businesses and community will have this beautiful asset to continue to do life. There's so many beautiful spaces that will be there, and its proximity to the Dallas Zoo, I think, was genius.
Yeah.
And so there will be some shared parking there, but I anticipate all the businesses and properties in and around that area will thrive.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we talk about how big Oak Cliff is, and there are sections to it, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot. It can be some big differences between North Oak Cliff and South Oak Cliff.
Yeah.
And you know, right around that zoo area, you know, if you drive down, you know, Davis or 8th Street, and you cross over 35,
Yeah.
it looks different, right?
Right.
And so I think right where that zoo is and putting a park there, it's going to maybe let the new development in Oak Cliff and North Oak Cliff trickle into South Oak Cliff, and also provide an opportunity for the businesses more central South Oak Cliff to make their way into our area.
Yeah.
So we get this more blending, homogeneous experience for Oak Cliff
Yeah.
and bring everybody into the fold.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So Oak Cliff is one of the more beautiful areas in this city. And
Mhm.
it still surprises me how few people know how beautiful this area really is. And so I do think that this asset will welcome other people to our area. And I'm going to tell you this. I love Bishop Arts. You know, Amanda Lake is one of my closest friends in the
Mhm.
whole world. And but it's one of the more overexposed areas that's
Right.
here in Oak Cliff. I really am thrilled that we're talking about more than just Bishop Arts.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, because there's so many other beautiful gems here in Oak Cliff.
Mhm.
And I agree with you that this park it's drawing needed attention to this area, and hopefully it will bring folks to Oak Cliff and not just Bishop Arts. I mean, literally
Yeah.
when the chamber moved, and recently we left the North Oak Cliff area and we moved to the Redbird area, there were so many people that have asked me if we're still in Oak Cliff. I'm like, of course we're still in Oak
Yeah.
Cliff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We're right in the
We're more in Oak Cliff now
Yeah,
than before.
Absolutely.
And so
Mhm.
there is just such a lack of Oak Cliff marketing,
Right.
you know. Well, I shouldn't say lack of marketing. There's a lack of there's a lack of correct marketing. We are marketed very poorly. I believe it's gotten better over the years. But usually when you hear about Oak Cliff, we're thinking about how horrible it is, either
Right.
from an education or financial standpoint. But there are some beautiful, beautiful areas. And I think this park is one of the things that's needed to draw other people to the area.
Yeah. And I think with the popularity of the North Oak Cliff, Bishop Arts, Custer Park area, people want to be around it. And I think that impact spreads out a little further. You have developments like the Tyler Street Station, and that's really awesome. You know, people need to go check that out. It's so cool. There's breweries, there's some food, you know, there's a shared workspace.
Yeah.
And so that impact is making its way out of just the Bishop Arts region,
Yeah.
which is really cool to see. I mean, there are some really cool places. You've got Wynwood neighborhood with some really awesome mid-century homes. And you have, those are good for starter families, you know, new homeowners. There's, you know, but you're right. I mean, the prices are getting up there. It's not like it used to be, but it's a really awesome area. And I'm really happy to see that Oak Cliff is getting its due, not just for being Bishop Arts, but for being a bigger region.
Yeah.
So you said this in an interview back in March of 2024.
Okay.
And it really stood out to me.
Uh-oh.
You said Oak Cliff has a perception problem. We don't necessarily have a reality problem. It's a perception problem. One of the bigger goals is to change the perception of how people see Oak Cliff. It's an amazing community to work, live, play, and pray.
That's right.
I love that quote.
Thank
And you were nominated for a Remarkable Woman back in 2024. So congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
I think you were definitely, you fit that bill.
Thank you.
But with that quote, what perceptions have changed, or do we still have work to do? You know, what progress have we made?
Yeah, so we still have work to do, definitely. But there's been a significant amount of change, and you've mentioned some of them, like Monty Anderson. He is a phenomenal developer. He's very unique, and the developer of Tyler Street.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the most innovative kind of
So cool
projects that I've seen. And I got to talk to Monty early on before it happened, and I could not see what he was describing this development to be until it was done. And I was like, oh, how great is that? And so I think with developers who have vision like Monty Anderson, and there's so many others, and Peter Brodsky and all of them, I think they're slowly changing the perception of our beloved Oak Cliff, kind of one project at a time.
Right.
I've seen where Peter Brodsky with Redbird, Shops at Redbird, has gotten a lot of publicity, as he should, for what he's doing in the Redbird area. And what happens is when you have great development, economic development naturally follows. And so the whole Redbird area is just booming right now, so much so that we're over there now.
Right.
And so I think that we're getting better, one project at a time, one good project at a time. That matters.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we've got work to do, but I believe we've come a long way. I think that we've had some meaningful conversations with our media outlets about how they even report Oak Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
That's been helpful. Before there was such a problem with Oak Cliff being confused with South Dallas, and that is personal rub for me.
Gotcha.
South Dallas is Fair Park, and while we love Fair Park, South Dallas and Oak Cliff are two different areas.
Gotcha.
And so we are, as Oak Cliff folks, we are in the southern sector.
Sure. Yeah.
But we are not Fair Park.
Yeah.
And Fair Park, unfortunately, if we check the crime rates, there's higher crime in Fair Park than there is in Oak Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I don't want to spotlight that, I need to say it's not in Oak Cliff. You got us wrong.
Right,
and so I think there still needs to be some work done. But I think we've come a long way. The media reports us a little bit better, and development is helping with some of those things.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to mention South Oak Cliff High School continuing to win
big
in sports. That's helpful.
Yeah,
That's
they
helpful.
Feel it. Yeah, they really feel it. Yeah, but no, I'm excited to see all that Oak Cliff is going to do. This is a great community. So with the chamber, the function of it is to bring businesses together, help you grow your business.
Mm-hmm.
But how does the chamber affect our elected officials and their voting? Do we have is there anything that we have going on in the chamber that lobbies or impacts what's going to happen in elections and how things are voted on?
Okay, so typically a chamber of commerce tries to stay out of races for the most part. So we don't necessarily support, we do not support candidates.
Mm-hmm.
What we will do, I love to be able to be a source of information. So usually during elections, we like to host candidate forums so that our community gets a good understanding of the platforms that the candidates are running on.
Gotcha.
And so they understand who to vote for, our community, based on their own convictions. And so we try not to sway the community one way or the other when it comes to candidates. But once elected, we are in full support specifically of our Oak Cliff elected officials. We have 4 phenomenal council members.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited. Chad West is my personal, I live in District 1, so he's my council member.
Mm-hmm.
I personally support Chad just because that's the district I live in, and he's done a phenomenal job. We have our District 3 council member, which is Aaron Gracie, which has just recently secured his seat for his second term. And then we've got a couple of new ones, Maxie Johnson, and we've got Lori Blair. So we're excited about working with those council members. But yeah, we support them once they become council members.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because I from what I was looking up, I guess sometimes there can be a PAC or something like that sometimes the chamber can, but not for Oak Cliff.
No, I typically try not to get in.
Stay neutral.
I try to, and I will tell you, I have, this has been a journey of learning for me. I think there was the perception at one time that I got in a race and that council member that did not, or excuse me, look, I'm trying to say this the correct way.
Yeah.
But when a council member does not feel that they're being supported by an organization and they secure that seat, they will hold that against you from now until forever. So
Gotcha.
I try not to
Gotcha.
get in the middle of their races.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not good for our organization.
Yeah.
So we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, back on kind of development and what developers need to know about Oak Cliff. Is there anything different about the community that developers need to know? I know there's a lot of artists. We like these creative spaces, but what do you see? What do you see as the personality of the businesses in Oak Cliff, and how can people appeal to those interests?
Oak Cliff mostly is a pretty progressive, tight-knit community. My predecessor, I'm trying to remember this. I think it was Rosemont. I think he was referring to Rosemont, but anyway, there were many years ago that there was some sort of issue that was going on, and it seemed like the Rosemont parents came out with pitchforks, and there was a development, so all the things, and so that thing comes to mind because that speaks to kind of the voices that this community will make sure that developers will hear, and we're just a tight-knit community and very vocal. And so I think that, again, this community does have a personality. It is mostly progressive. I mean, there's a pocket of conservative folks, but mostly pretty progressive. And from a developer standpoint, our community loves to be communicated with. We don't want you just putting some random thing over here just so you can make a ton of money. We want to make sure that every development that happens in our beloved Oak Cliff is development that benefits our neighbors. Yeah, and that we can grow with that development being there. So we want to make sure that there will never be total buy-in, but we would love to have the majority of our community bought into development.
So there's different types of development, and we've seen kind of taking these historic places or older buildings and fixing them up. We've seen Bishop Arts has that new Bishop Lane, and it's all new. Even down Beckley, we've got 4 brand new apartment complexes that have been up over the past few years. So how do those get approval, and who approves them, if you know? And if people don't like them or do, how do you have a voice in determining whether these brand new big box apartment complexes that may or may not last for more than 15 years get voted on and put into action?
So there has to be, there's a process, right? And so these developers need to be having community meetings to get community input. And so the best place to start is going to those meetings, actually physically going to those meetings. One of the things that I've seen so often, especially with this newer generation of folks, some of our community likes to kind of sit on social media and complain about what's happening versus actually getting involved. And so there still has to be that in-person involvement, and you have to voice your opinion at those meetings because that's what they're there for. So that is more or less, that should be the process. The developers should seek community input before putting these big monster and some of them I don't, I mean, I'll be honest with you, some of them I don't really like. But that's what needs to be happening, and there needs to be community buy-in before these things are approved. In some cases, and it varies just depending on, what the zoning is or was, or, and if it's zoned correctly for whatever redevelopment or development is happening, sometimes that's not the process to even have community involvement. But in cases where there could be zoning issues or things like that, then most certainly the developer should be asking for input from the community.
Gotcha. So sometimes it is kind of just out of your control, and and they'll just come in and do it if it's possible. Absolutely. I mean, if I tear this, and I'm oversimplifying everything, right? Because nothing is that simple with our beloved city of Dallas. But if I tear an office building down and I rebuild it, I don't necessarily need to ask your permission or the community's permission to rebuild something that was already there, and so sometimes that's a thing. If the zoning was already there and I just need to get my permits and go. Right. But it comes down to supply and demand as well. I mean, it seems like a lot less millennials in my age group, and then you have Gen Zs coming into the workforce, and they've been here for a while. We're renting. A lot of people are renting, and home ownership just seems like something that was sold to us as an American dream, and it seems like it can be a far cry from a reality.
Right.
So, what would you tell people that you were in real estate, so what would you tell people that dream of having this home, but feel like they're trapped into having an apartment and that lifestyle?
Oh goodness, It's a challenge. One of my really good friends is a realtor also, but does apartment locating. And we have this battle all the time because I'm a lot older and I'm like, oh, people really need to buy a house. I don't know the real answer. I really don't know the answer to that because it's so difficult to be a homeowner these days. So I don't know. I don't know the real answer to that. As a homeowner that lives in the Bishop Arts area, my taxes are ridiculous in the city of Dallas. I wish I had a better answer for you. So I don't know that I could guide one.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough because, we're really proud of not having the state income tax, but it seems like it's made up a lot for if you want to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
But that is kind of the dream that a lot of people that I know they have of being a homeowner. But I think it takes patience. People who bought a home in the Bishop Arts area 15 years ago now probably see these incredible benefits of having had that foresight. And I think that in my generation, the younger generation, we just want to be so close to the action that we're really not willing to settle for, a little less expensive home.
Right.
We have to drive 2 hours to work,
Yeah.
or not 2 hours, but like 2 miles, I mean, Wynwood, even south of Wynwood, in South Oak Cliff, these are still great neighborhoods that you can make an investment into.
Right.
And it's good to know there are other investors who are also putting the retail in place, because I know that's a big concern. But with the Redbird development and Tyler Street, there are these places in those areas.
It's just such a challenge. My daughter is, she's about your age, and we have this debate as well. So she lives downtown Houston, and she walks to work every morning. She doesn't start her car at all. She's like, Mommy, I've gone like 6 months and I haven't driven my car. And you're right. She likes to be right there in the middle of all the things. And I'm on her about, home ownership. That's, you're building equity and that's property, all the things. And so we have not even found in my house or with my daughter a reasonable solution. So I just think to each his own.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's a lot of investment to own a home. My brother has a home just up here on Wedgelea, and my another buddy bought a home down Davis, kind of in between Davis and Jefferson.
Yeah.
And they told me, they go, I mean, buy a home, but man, it's a lot of upkeep.
Yeah.
I mean, and so for people that are, young and career focused, and they just go, I don't want to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's a fine choice to live in an apartment. But I think that, there is the long-term thinking, right? We want to be long-term thinkers. And I think when we have this society and this culture of immediacy, it's really hard to think, 7-10 years. I mean, gosh, what's that going to look like? But it can still be possible, I guess, is my point, is that if you really want to have a home and you want that to be your dream, you can still do it, and just be prepared for the added costs that come along with home ownership.
When I say that to my daughter, the American dream, she's like, Mom, that's your dream.
It sounds like it's out of a bad Hallmark movie or something.
It's your dream, Mom.
That's your dream, Dad. It's not my dream.
It's not my dream. She's very dramatic, so.
Yeah, right. And that's one thing I think that the parents of these millennials and Gen Zers need to understand is that, hey, this isn't the dream for everybody. I think on the flip side of that, they go, your dream's not to build wealth. So there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
But like you said, to each their own.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you talk about faith, identity, and public leadership in Dallas, what do those mean to you? What does it really mean to give back to your community? How is your faith important to you and your family?
Okay. So faith for starters, I think faith is everything. I believe in the highest power there is, our Creator, and that's just everything. That is the foundation of our very existence. And in terms of what that looks like in Oak Cliff, being in Oak Cliff, we have so many phenomenal institutions in which to worship. And I love that. There are so many deserts in Oak Cliff, from an entertainment desert to, they've even said that there's a food desert and all the things, but we are not lacking when it comes to a place of worship. And so we have many, many options, and I'm grateful for that, be it If you want to worship in a small environment or large or whatever, we've got so many mega churches, especially Black mega churches in Oak Cliff. And so that means everything to me. And I think that we'll never master being a servant, but I think that it starts with that core belief that if our Creator served, then we should too. And I think once we get that, we understand that, it makes it so much easier to serve our community. We lead with service. And so I think they all go hand in hand.
Yeah, and service, it's hard for people to see that, well, if I'm not just looking out for my best interest or my bottom line, I'm going to get taken advantage of. But from what I've seen and the businesses in Oak Cliff and the people who I've made connections with through my dad and his longevity here, they've all been people who give back, all been generous people. And so, starting a business, being a longtime business owner and having that service aspect, I think it always comes back to benefit you. That maybe shouldn't be the necessary goal to always have this reciprocity, but knowing that, you live with yourself better, you have a clear conscience, and I think that giving is one of the best gifts for ourselves that we can do.
Absolutely. There are, whether you're a believer of the Bible or not, the biblical principles still apply.
Right.
And when you give, when you serve others, there is no limit to how much will be given back to you. Right. That's a basic principle, is if you give, it will be given back unto you. And so if we're not in the habit of, or in the business of keeping score, how much I give to you, then I need to get it back. If we don't keep score, I think that our lives will be so rich just by leading with service.
Don't let your right hand know what the left is doing. No, that's good.
Just lead with service, and don't worry about it. No one owes us anything. You just give. That is the number one commandment, to love. I recently went to my very first Pride. Pride parade. And I will tell you, I was conflicted about the whole thing. Going to the parade, I was very, very conflicted. And when I got there, it was such a different experience than, for whatever reason, that I thought it was going to be. What I walked away with is that Christ is love. Right. And no matter the skin that we're in, whether it's brown or white or short or tall, whatever, it is just love, period. And that my function should not be to judge your life. Sure. My function should be to love you and to serve you, period. And will allow God to be the righteous judge at the end of it all. Right. My commandment is to just love. And I think that more than not, in the community of Oak Cliff, we get to see that, neighbors loving on and serving each other. That's why I will probably die here. I'm not going anywhere. I love it. I can go outside at my house, and my neighbor picks up my trash can that it's always in the road for some reason. I don't know. But there's just such a love and sense of community here in Oak Cliff. I'll be here forever.
And that really, when we talk about the American dream, I think part of that dream, besides homeownership and building wealth, is having a community of people that can be of different walks of life, believe different things, but still support each other, and love each other. I think that's what makes Oak Cliff beautiful, because we might have a generalization of how we are, and if we're progressive or not, but I think we all get along here. Everyone gets along with each other. I think that means a lot. But what you're talking about, when we give and we get back, we do get back, and sometimes we get back something different than what we expected to get. We might be giving our financial resources, we might be giving time, but what we get back is joy. We don't, it's not okay, I'm going to invest $10,000 and I'm going to get back 30,000. It's like, well, you might lose the money.
Right.
The money might just be a gift,
Right.
but you're going to get joy. You're going to get relationships, because at the end of the day, even if you have all the money in the world and no one to share it with, what is that really worth?
Right.
So yeah, I think just, giving and living a life of joy with the fewest regrets is what I think that my faith has to offer me, at least. And knowing that we have a purpose and what we're doing matters.
Recently I witnessed one of the most life-altering things I think that I'll ever see. There is a man that was in his mid-80s that we recently lost. And he spent his entire life building wealth and was very, very wealthy, extremely wealthy man. Here he owned a lot of real estate, and his family didn't even give him a funeral.
Wow.
Because he had not developed a relationship with even his kids.
Wow.
He didn't have any family or friends that stood by his bedside as he was transitioning. He didn't, but he had a ton of money.
Yeah.
And what a life lesson for me. And it was very sad for me, but sometimes we're so on this journey of chasing wealth that, to your point, we miss the things that are so much more valuable, which is those relationships, the love, the faith, even the journey. And so I would challenge anyone that's listening to make sure that those relationships are intact.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So what is your challenge to the Dallas dreamers, the entrepreneurs that want to do their own thing, that maybe they're climbing the corporate ladder and they want to stop, or maybe they are just working a job they're just not passionate about, and they always had this idea they want to take action on, or the business owner that is at one level want to get to the next? What's your challenge to these Dallas and specifically Oak Cliff business owners?
What is my challenge to them? For the young person that wants to be an entrepreneur and might just be working a 9-to-5 that they hate, I would challenge them to stay for a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Stay for a little bit and learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I see a lot of times is the young people thinking that they want to be an entrepreneur just because they don't want to work for someone else. And entrepreneurship, if you're trying to avoid rules and
that's a fair point.
If you're trying to avoid structure and discipline, you have to be that much more disciplined to be an entrepreneur than to work for someone else. And I think that's a big misconception about entrepreneurship, is that there's all of this flexibility. And oh my God, there is not.
That's so true. That's such a great point.
It is, you think you're working hard, working for someone else, and you're able to clock out at 5:00. That is not the way it is being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I would challenge that young person, if they're miserable, stay for a little bit, learn some things, develop the discipline that's needed, develop. And then while that's happening, pursue whatever that entrepreneurial passion would be simultaneously, but don't just jump all the way out there, especially if you've got responsibilities.
Good point.
So we see that a lot of times. We have a lot of undisciplined folks that just think that, they're going to get rich quick, and that is not the way it works.
Yeah.
So, discipline is key.
Yeah. My parents had this business when I was growing up, and they provided a great life for me. But I remember, it's tumultuous. It's up and down. Businesses are not just, a walk in the park. I get to be in charge of myself. When you're a business owner and you have clients, if you have 50 clients, you have 50 bosses. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And they all want you there now.
Yeah.
So that is a good, warning to people who might want to get into an entrepreneur, path, that, hey, it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of effort. Not that they can't do it, But yeah, stick around your job, learn on the side,
Yeah.
have a side hustle.
Yeah.
Because if you're going home at 5 and you're too tired to work on your side hustle, then you're going to be probably too tired to run a business.
And another key thing I think that entrepreneurs need to know is an entrepreneur is a generalist more than not.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you can go home and bake a cake, that doesn't mean you should own a bakery.
Right.
Because you have to know the business side of things. A good entrepreneur is a generalist in that you know a little bit about all things. You can hire a baker, but you need to know how to run the business.
Right.
And so that's key in building a good, solid business, is knowing the aspects of business.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I mean, if you like you said, love baking or love woodworking, and you're like, I love doing this activity.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a business around it. You'll find yourself never doing that thing again.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You're never going to do that again.
Right.
You're going to be worrying about the marketing and the accounting.
That's right.
And you're going to have to worry about sales. And if you have more overhead, then you've got to build on top of that. You got to make more so you don't go under, and then you have sleepless nights. And so, not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, is there anything else that it's really on your mind that you want to tell people, that talk about anything coming up, or just anything interesting about you?
Anything interesting about me? So I would encourage every entrepreneur to get involved with a chamber of commerce. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce. I believe that in this age, most folks are starting to think that social media has replaced those in-person interactions, and that's not true. We still do business with people that we're in a relationship with, not that we see on the internet or on social media. I would encourage everyone to get involved with a chamber or civic group. Get involved. It's super important, because as we're reminded over and over and over again, if you're building business, your network is your net worth. Right. The more folks that you know and that know you and that like you, those are the folks that you will ultimately have relationships with and build a business with. So get involved.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Kiyundra, thank you so much
for
coming on. I had a great time talking to you.
Thanks.
You have a lot of good insight, and I just really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. That's it for this episode of Building Dallas. We'll see you next time.
Subscribe, share, and stay connected. Until next time, keep building. Building Dallas is presented by Arrington Roofing, keeping North Texas covered, rain or shine.